Welcome to the Little Bit of Life podcast. I'm your host, Tabitha, better known as Little. You may think you know me from social media, but Little is shown off the apps. That's until now. This podcast is dedicated to having those real, raw, and occasional chats together about what we seem to think but don't say. Special guests will join me that have impacted me along the way. Nothing is off limits. Sit back, take time for yourself, you've earned it, and enjoy today's topic. One voice, one story at a time. Let's dive in together. Little Bit of Life podcast is brought to you by Hello Love Nails. I have been using press-on nails for 15 years. And yes, intermittently, I have been doing acrylic and gel and dip and powder and everything in between. I struggled to find press-on nails that actually stayed on. I have been using them for over 15 years. I have tried every style, every option, thin, thick, every single shape, and yes, every single glue. There's nothing worse than having to travel with a tiny little travel glue inside of your purse because you never know when they're going to come off. Say hello to a game changer. Hello Love Nails. Say goodbye to messy glues and frustrating applications. With Hello Love, you'll enjoy hassle-free, long-lasting nails that look and feel amazing. Get ready to slay any look effortlessly. I am in love with them. This is the nail game that is strong. I can use one set of nails for over 2 to 3 weeks. And if I want to change it up for a fun night out, a concert, or I just want a little bit of sass and spunk in my summer, guess what? I simply just go pull a new pack out, order online, and it arrives right to my very front door. A change that I can save time and save money. Head on over today to www.hellolovinc.com/little. Hey everybody, welcome in a Little Bit of Life podcast right here with your host, Little. I am so excited for today's special episode. We're talking about love. We are talking about how to attract the love that we need, that we want, that we desire. And I have on Melani. She is the love coach. She is the epitome of answering all of our questions. What do we need to do? Melani, it's good to see you and have you on. How are you?
Hi, Tabitha. What a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You came across my feed to say I'm intrigued. I think all of us need a little bit of help in the dating category, but I think that dating really starts with dating ourselves first. So my big question straight out the gate, what is the difference between a dating coach versus a matchmaker?
I'm really glad you asked that because a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, I can hook them up with somebody, and that's not what I do whatsoever. So a dating coach is basically somebody that helps you get in there and really identify what it is that's blocking you in your relationships, right? Because if you're dating, obviously you've had some unsuccessful relationships, or it could be that you have fear of relationships, fear of commitment, or fear of even people, like very introverted people.
So I love that you say what blocks us, because I think that part of the issue in dating, and I know I'm going to get so many eye rolls from listeners right when I say this, I just feel it in the depths of my soul. We always have this sense of a boundary of there's nothing wrong with us. It's the other person. We miss the red flags, our pickers off. I mean, we've heard it all, especially in 2024. But what blocks us personally? Because I feel like we're kind of in that deep dive of like, okay, we're really starting to do therapy. We're really starting to seek out people such as yourself. We're really looking inward. Do you think that that's what blocks us at first?
So yes, definitely it's this. Okay, so it's pointing the finger, but what people don't realize is every time that you're pointing the finger, and I know this is kind of cliche, but anytime you're pointing the finger at somebody else, honey, you've got 3 pointing back at you.
Okay.
So what I help you do is identify what those 3 are pointing back at you and help you remove those so that when you do go into a dating situation, you're at your best, and therefore you're going to attract that, right? If your picker is broken, that's because part of you is broken. Anything that we see in somebody else that we don't like, we need to really look in the mirror at that and why it bothers that. So it's examining those deeper triggers.
Those are so hard. Gosh, that's
Yes,
such a hard thing.
And, you know, when I talk to people and I ask them, so what's been going on? You know, the number one thing that people do is say, well, you know, she did this and she said this and he did that and he's a narcissist. Number one, right? That's the number one response is, oh, he's just a narcissist or she's just a narcissist. And that's probably the most overused word in self-development realm, if you ask my personal opinion. But only once that I've talked to somebody did they take ownership. And it was so monumental to me because it's only happened once out of the many hundreds of conversations I've had and have on a daily basis. Everybody wants to point the finger. Only once has somebody ever said, well, I did this, and they owned everything on their side of the street, right?
Do you think some of our sense of being blocked and us not really having success in dating is also coming from the dreaded conversations of generational shifting and traumas? Do you think that that is a huge issue? I already know of like how kind of like relationships we've learned behaviors, some good traits, some negative traits from maybe our parents, or if we had, you know, a relationship that was not positive that we couldn't look up to as a role model, even grandparents or family or friends. Do you think that that's now kind of this? There's a weird shift, I feel like, in 2024. There's a lot of, you know, those of us that were getting married very early in our 20s because, you know, we fell in love, high school sweetheart. But then there's a lot of us in our 30s and 40s that are like reinventing ourselves, which I mean, in my
Many
parents'
people are.
generation, that was unheard of.
Totally unheard of. And so to touch on a couple of things you said, you know, generational trauma is definitely talked about now, where in my parents' generation, that was swept under the rug. There's nothing wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with us. We are great. How are you? That mentality, you know, kind of that beaver cleaver type white picket fence, everything's great over here mentality. And, you know, kind of my generation was raised with that. And so to date it back a little bit, generational trauma, I mean, if you think back generations, like actual generations. So my parents' generation, right? We have the Vietnam War era. Okay. Whole lot of trauma there. None of it discussed. Let's go a couple events previous. You know, we've got World War II. We have the Great Depression. I mean, that's only 2 generations, 3 generations ago. That trauma is what has raised us. Does that make sense to you? Like their trauma had that trickle down effect because, and I didn't even get back to, you know, we got the settlers versus the Indians here. And yeah. So people going through extreme physical trauma, you know, just the environment they lived in, you know, they had to build their houses from scratch, things of that nature has trickled down. We don't have that survival per se, but we still have the trauma attached to their survival. So we are learning to deal with the trauma of these previous generations and learning how to let go of it. But first we have to feel. We have to feel to heal. And that's what I work with people regularly on, this thing called the feelings wheel. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's so basic. In the center, you have sad, angry, happy, you know, things like that. And then it branches out from there. And going through that and actually identifying the feelings that you're having is what will help you then let go of it. But in today's dating culture, you know, we're seeing it more and more that this is like a self-development type of time. Literally 2024. I mean, it's everywhere. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. I mean, I talk about YouTube University all the time. I mean, I learn from it regularly.
Yeah.
You know, self-development's everywhere, but people have to know what they're feeling. They have to admit that they're feeling vulnerable or abandoned, or because those are all the things, those are all the things that we're blessed with, but we have to feel it to heal it. And I think that that's one of the biggest blocks that people run into in dating is trying to avoid the feeling, even if it's just the feelings of the ex, Yeah.
I think we were also raised, I know, like with my mom and dad's generation, it was like you said, keep it behind your four walls. If it's not within your relationship, your direct relationship, it's kind of none of your business. Stay out of it. And it was
Yeah.
this huge shift of men never showed emotion or feelings. And so even to communicate with your partner, then it was unheard of. Now I feel like we've almost kind of shifted the role, which is interesting at the same time and scary to watch in dating. Women are now almost completely independent. We want to be, the ruler and the queen of our homes, where men are starting to get into that, talk about their feelings, their emotions, their fears. Even 10 years ago, we would never think of that, which I think is part of the interesting factor of dating, is because now we have women that are so hyper independent that when you ask women, okay, what are you looking for? We don't know what we're looking for, because a man can be
Ooh.
too emotional, not emotional enough. So, I mean, for my male listeners on here, we're 50-50 for, that listening gender, but I feel bad for you guys, because it's almost like, do I show my emotions and my feelings, or do I hide it? Do you feel that you work a lot with coaching men in that aspect?
Yes, I actually have been asked this topic where it's been brought to my attention that women are extremely independent and men don't know exactly how to tread on that, because it is a fine line, whether I can take myself, for example, I'm a very independent woman. However, I love to be treated like a soft female. What does that mean to a guy?
Yeah.
You know what that means, right? You get it. But what does that mean to a guy? And that's what I kind of do in my coaching is I say I speak femalese, right? I don't speak Chinese, but I speak femalese. And I help translate what statements like that mean to men. So I do that a lot in my men's coaching, actually. And there is a huge rise. But one exercise, so I'll just tell you, all the guys I work with, we all do that, right? I've even done it myself. I have my 3 buckets. So I call it the 3 bucket list. And the first column is the absolute must. You must have these qualities, right? Like for me, sense of humor is top. Emotional availability is huge, right? I'm not going to combat that with a lack of emotional availability. And you design your absolute must, right? They must have these qualities. Second bucket is a list of your desires, right? Do you want tall, dark, and handsome? Does she have a nice butt? Like what are your desires, right? Long hair, short hair, beard, tattoos, no tattoos, piercings, whatever, your desires. And then the third list, absolute no-go, right? Some people call them red flags, but your no-goes. I will never deal with that. And, it could be abuse. That would be obvious. Cheating, unfaithfulness, but for some people, it might be a no-go is having children, or a no-go might be not having children. So it's a very personal list. And to those of you that don't know exactly what you want, this is a way to get clear, because you will never, ever get where you want to go if you don't know where the destination is. Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of different options for dating. I think that even when I was growing up, like I wanted what my parents had. I wanted that, that love, that relationship, what my grandparents had. And now there's so many options. I don't even think we have a sense of reality for dating. We have reality shows that people are getting married at first sight at an altar without even knowing someone.
Yeah.
And having to make that productive. Love is blind behind a wall. I've even had someone from season 2 on multiple times. I don't
Oh,
think that
really?
oh yeah. And he's
Oh,
actually coming on
cool. I
for
love
part
that
2
show.
because it was
Love that
interesting.
show.
Like, it's
It was so
different.
interesting because it's
Mhm.
actually an experiment. That's what caught my eye. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, wait a second. This is for real. I want to know what they find out. I
Yeah.
want to learn these findings.
Yeah. I even asked about like the notebooks. I'm like, do they kind of encourage you like the questions to ask? And then I was like, and what's with the golden goblets? Like, we have them everywhere. And so like they were laughing, but it's something where we used to look up to those around us, like parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Now I feel like we have this sense of reality TV and like celebrities that we are trying to create this unrealistic form of a relationship or dating.
Very unrealistic.
Yeah. So how do we attract what we want? That seems like such a broad question, but how do we, once we have our buckets, how do we find
Yes.
it?
Okay. So it's one of my favorite topics. And this is my personal belief. This is kind of what I coach on. And it I've seen it ring true time and time again. How to attract a partner that you truly crave in your soul of soul. You've done your bucket list, you know exactly what it is you want. The question is, are you that person? Are you date worthy? How is your sense of humor? How is your sense of loyalty on the real, right? Like, we know what to say in an interview, but on the real, are you deleting messages? Were you deleting messages in your last relationship? Get really honest with yourself on that. And how about the jealousy factor? That plays in huge in relationship. How is your insecurity level? Where is your self-worth at? Because, as it's been said a million times, your results will never exceed your self-worth. That was the first and hardest lesson for me to learn. Because, oh God, even just 10 years ago, my self-worth, about this big. And then once I realized that if I wanted things this big, I wanted the biggest life possible, I had to grow that self-worth. And so that meant no longer being a victim to my insecurities and never being a victim again. Never. Taking that and flipping the script and looking at everything that happened in life as it happens for you, not to you. Because what you want to do is you want to use this little thing called the law of attraction. So a lot of people have heard of the law of attraction, and simply said, like attract like, right? But with that, there is actually, that's the secondary law to the primary law, which is called the law of vibrational frequency. So what's that even mean? Your vibe, right? Everybody knows what a good vibe is, right? When you walk into a room and you can just feel the vibe is great. Or the opposite. You walk into a room and you're like, oh, something just happened or something's off. You feel it. And that's the vibrational frequency. Well, the thing is, we're all made of energy, right? Broken down to the tiniest little atom. We're all made of energy. And if like attracts like, and our energy is kind of in the gutter along with our self-worth, what kind of partner do you think we're going to attract? Bring all the losers.
To say probably
what you're
everything
thinking.
I've been attracting quite recently.
So how do you fix that? You dive into you. You learn how to celebrate you. You learn why to love you, not how, because that's actually natural. We've learned how to not love us by all the fingers that were pointed at us. We didn't measure up in this way or that way, or this is wrong, or we look poor in that way, or, but we learn why we're lovable again. And when you bring that level up and you have real confidence, not fake confidence, right, that you see all over social media, that's fake confidence. That's a public image of people. Private, personal piece of you, right? You bring that up, you are going to attract a different caliber of human into your life. And I don't care if you are great gay, straight, or anything in between, it's universal for a reason. Race, religion, continent you come from, it doesn't matter. Like attracts like. So with that said, you always want to protect your vibe at all costs. But once you actually get that up, right, you're going to have some outliers that still are at a lower vibrational frequency, right? Because you've grown, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll see is in one way or another, they will fall out of your life. They will. They will find their way out of your life, and your life will open up, and you'll have space for those that you'll start to attract higher caliber person over and over.
I always like to
I've seen it time and again.
I always like to do interactive polls. I think it's always interesting when I do a topic before it airs,
yes.
before we interview. And so I asked on this one, I was like, I need the men on this one. I need the women on this one. I said, for men, what is the issue with women in dating? The number one response was women's expectations these days are too high for men to meet. When I asked women the same question, it was men are not even doing the bare minimum. They're not reaching the bar that we have. And it amazed me because I'm like, on both levels, we see the same thing. It's a teeter-totter, and it's all about communication. How are women communicating? How are the men communicating? Do you find that this is something that's probably a huge issue in not only what blocks us, but also what makes us successful at the same time?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Well, first of all, when people are communicating, like let's say in an argument, right? Something has happened, something's gotten heated, right? In an argument, what I've heard more common than not is the attempt at communication. However, you're just repeating the problem in like 20 different ways. Well, you said this. Well, yeah, I said that because you said this. Well, no, you didn't. You said this. And then it's literally an argument about a reenactment, and there's zero solution involved, right? So the communication, I mean, you can communicate all you want. We could talk about daisies all day, but that isn't going to solve world hunger, you know? So that's kind of what's happening is they're talking about daisies while trying to solve world hunger, you know? And the couple that I have worked with, once they get the word solution into their repertoire, right? Into their communication repertoire. What is the solution? Or honoring space, right? Honoring the space necessary to have a break to come back together. Mm-hmm. Now, that does not mean the silent treatment. Okay. We're not talking 48 hours here because that's absolutely ridiculous and very selfish. Mm-hmm. Let's take a break. Let's come back together. Let's decide the solution because we as a couple is what matters most. Not my point, not your point. Neither one of us are trying to make point. Okay, we want to be heard. So let's hear each other and discuss what our solution is. And, you know, there's the classic, when you did this, it made me feel this. What I don't like is we're pointing the finger on that one again. So in communication, take ownership. Both sides, men and women. It's back to that owning your shit.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's really hard, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a matter of growth. The other question that so many asked, especially when I said, "Hey, we got a love coach on. What questions you got? Just full send, just bring it." So many people asked in the dating. They're like, "We're in the dating world. Some of them are divorced, widowed. Some of them are just like, I've been single for a very long time." The topic of conversation came up from both men and women about sex. What do we do? Is sex a form of love in the beginning, or is that something, obviously, as most women know, it's an emotional bond for women. It is a physical thing for men at the very start. How important is that in regards to success? Because so many men have to be physically attracted to the female or vice versa. But how important is sex when you're really working through of finding who you are, being comfortable, dating, and looking for love all at the same time?
How important is it in all of that? I mean, honestly, take it out of the equation for a second. Look at yourself. right? Take sex out of the equation. Incorporate sex once you are whole. Again, no pun intended.
Yep.
But seriously, you have to be whole. There is no point that sex is going to fix anything, right? Ask any woman that, giving it up to somebody thinking that she's going to get him back or, keep him or anything,
Mhm.
it sex is, in my opinion, the best when two people are on the same playing field, right?
Mhm.
We're both in this together. And the only way to do that is to truly know thyself first.
Mhm. This episode also is not for those that are just single. We had a lot of poll interaction from those that are married. The number one question that came up for those that are married of, is it possible to truly repair love that has been broken, completely broken, whether that's from trust, whether that's from cheating, infidelity? I even had someone anonymously state, I've been married for over 7 years with no interruptions, no issues. I don't want children. They do. And I'm like, in 7 years, it took you 7 years for that topic of conversation to come up. And so it's interesting. So many people ask that we're married. Is it possible to fully repair something, a love that's been broken? Is it worth it?
My answer to that is yes, it's possible. Only you know if it's worth it. And you're the determining factor of the success. If both people are involved, both people have to learn how to forgive and let go of resentment. To heal anything on the outside, you have to heal within. There was an issue that was broken long before the cheating happened. It could have happened at 6 years old, whatever that was.
Mhm.
And it's never been addressed. So if that's addressed, there's definitely possibility there because that person could morph into a completely different human. Now, the question is, will you still like that human too?
Mhm.
Do you want to stay committed to that human? It's a matter of personal preference at that point. And also personal desire. Some people can only fight for so long. And it's not an easy process. It's not, because you have to heal the soul in order to heal anything externally. So, and to those that don't believe we have a soul, I'm sorry, I'm not the coach for you. That's just me.
What do you think right now, especially with your experience in being a love coach? What do you think that not all of us, because there's some that just, you guys got it together. Let me tell you, I am so jealous. What do you think is our biggest roadblock? What do you think is our biggest issue right now with dating?
Ooh, the lack of knowledge of codependency.
Mm.
People think one thing or another about codependency and they don't realize what it is whatsoever. Okay, so I want you to picture every princess movie you've ever watched, right? Knight comes in on the white horse, knight in shining armor syndrome going on loud and clear in every cartoon. We're watching this at the age that our subconscious is forming. We're watching it on repeat because you know how kids are, right? They watch it over and over and over again. Prince Charming has to come save the princess every time. We are living in an age where those princesses are all grown up and the princes are all grown up. And the men think when they see a woman that's struggling and, she needs this, that, and the other thing, they are going to rush in, save the day, and be the knight in shining armor. What they don't understand is there's a reason she's there. Okay, she either just got out of a toxic relationship, which she needs to take a break to heal from, or her self-esteem is lacking. Any number of things is not being addressed, but he's coming in to save her. So she's not learning how to save herself, and he is getting his self-worth from saving her. But the thing is, eventually, what if she saves herself and she starts getting better? What happens to him? Or what if she never gets better? Then he's the guy that's always complaining about a toxic woman and, Codependency is like being hungry. You're starving. So you make yourself a sandwich, right? Except instead of eating it and feeding yourself, you take that sandwich and you rub it all over your body externally, trying to get full. It doesn't work. It works that way with relationships and happiness too. We have to feed ourselves, and people forget that. I have a crazy habit. Very often at sunset, you will find me in my Jeep, literally riding off into the sunset. I'll pull over, I'll take pictures, or I'll get out, sit in the grass, depending on where I am. It's something that I do to keep my love cup full. And great coach out there is Sven Erlichsen. He wrote a book called There's a Hole in My Love Cup, right? And once you seal all those holes in your love cup, right? That are all patched up in your hole, you want to keep it that way. You have to find things, like you said, date yourself. And funny you said that, because literally in my program, I have an assignment where you have to go out and take yourself on a date. Everything that you've ever wanted to do, whether it's go to a concert, go to a movie, go for a drive, whatever that is, do it by yourself and learn why you love yourself again.
I started to do that. I was out of a very toxic relationship, relocated, the whole shebang. Those that follow me on social media are like, oh, she went through it. And it was something where I realized I was looking for everything I wasn't giving to a partner in that partner. And so I really date myself once a month. And it's scary. When you go to a movie by yourself, you're like, this is weird. Is anyone looking at me? That's usually your first intention and your first thought. And then I just started realizing, you know what? I don't really give a shit who's watching me, because maybe I'm inspiring somebody else to go to a restaurant and order what they want and not have to worry about, do they like what I'm eating? You know, am I eating too fast? Am I eating too slow? Am I eating too... I started to date myself. And it was interesting, this like shift that I didn't realize of, I mean, there were some really great, sorry people, because I know they're gonna be like, I was one of those. There were some good contenders in the DMs, I'm not gonna lie. But I was more comfortable with myself of saying, I'm not ready yet. I have a lot going on and I like where I'm at right now. So I'm going to have to decline. But thank you for the compliment, or thank you for the invitation. And for once, I didn't feel guilty as a female for saying no. I think that's a huge shift for us as women. Of, we were asked out, we haven't been asked out on a date. I have girlfriends of mine that are like, oh, I haven't even been out of my house in months. I just want the experience. And I'm like, but you want the experience, or do you want the experience with that person? Because if you're just doing it for them,
for sure,
you're not enjoying yourself and you're not being true to yourself.
100%. You know, in the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, he talks about acting as if, and I incorporate that into my coaching as well. If you want your person, you've only got so much space in your life, right? You got work, you got family, you got all sorts of obligations, friends, whatever. You can only hold so much space. Now, if you are letting, fly by night women and men come in and out, they're taking up that space. They are, they're taking up space where somebody that you actually want to be in that space could be, but they won't show up if that space is already taken. You'll never get the love of your life if somebody else is in your world.
The other question that so many asked with this kind of sense of empowerment, both with women and men, is it best to become friends first, to really get that baseline and really build that foundation? Because I feel like so many of us we go off of that first impression, the butterflies in the stomach. I always say, if you have butterflies, just drink a big cup of water, because you're probably just thirsty, fill the space, just give yourself a little bit of a moment. And so many people ask, maybe is it better to be friends first and build that foundation? Because we go from, hi, nice to meet you, to that codependent of, I love this person, I'm in love with, and it's an infatuation. And then when you're in the love phase, then you realize like, oh, I don't even like the way you chew your food. I don't like the way you drive your car. And then we start,
the humanness shows up.
Yeah. So do you find it's better? Do you coach that way of like, be friends first? Or is it okay to just dive right into the deep end?
I have to preface it with this. Of course, every person is different, right? However, me personally, and what I recommend is the more you get to know somebody, the better, right? I mean, it truly, so I believe in the representative, okay? Our representative is who shows up on the first date. We send our representative, they are the absolute best version of us, okay? They are shining and perfect and everything that we've ever wanted to be. And that's who shows up on the first date. And I don't care if you're female, male, whatever, your representative comes first, right? And it's a trade-off. So here's your authentic self. It's hidden, right? And here is the representative. The representative is retired. And eventually they switch spots, right? The authenticity comes through and the representative, it can't keep up, right? You can't keep up. You can't always be perfect. Eventually you're going to fart under the covers, right? Eventually you're going to chew your food. You are going to do something human, right? So if you show up more authentic in the beginning, there's less of a chance of that representative trade-off, but it's a good 6 months before that trade-off happens.
So I know I have people that are listening right now. How do we get you as our love coach if we are just a hot mess express?
Well, okay, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm everywhere, but you can find me at www.melani, now this is the funny part, MELANILEONA.com. Yeah, it's a doozy. It's a doozy. But MelaniLe'Ona.com. Otherwise, you can find me on TikTok as the Love Coach, or on Instagram, she is the Love Coach. So if you can't remember how to spell my name, just go to the Love Coach on TikTok. That's the easiest. You'll find me.
How have you been embraced? I have to ask, how have you been embraced on TikTok? Because you're honest, you're out there, you're very humble, but you're giving advice to people. How have you kind of been accepted on TikTok?
You know, I'm really glad you asked that question because it took a long time for me to truly step into my authentic self as a single woman, as a dating coach, right? Because I was like, oh, people are going to judge it. All those things that you go through at the movie theater by yourself, that happens to me professionally, all that self-chatter. But the reception has been outstanding. I get so much positive feedback from men, especially. You know, I've gotten a lot of clients actually from TikTok that will message me and say, hey, I want to work with you. But the thing is, I was raised as, you know, some say daddy's little girl. I was kind of like daddy's little tomboy. In high school, I had all male friends. I had male friends my whole life. I had no problem connecting with men. And because I just am that kind of tomboy, feminine, female, whatever, I hold a nurturing space for men, but yet I can relate to them in many, many senses.
Well, I'm going to put all your information in the bio because I know so many of you guys are going to listen to this and say, I have got to reach her. I have to schedule. I am a hot mess express. There's nothing wrong with that. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this because I think there's something that all of us can gain from this. It's not about thinking, I'm not good enough for somebody. I'm broken. I'm never going to find my love. But it's just like you said, taking the time to heal properly and not set yourself up for failure. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this.
Thank you. We are all deserving of love. We are all deserving of love. Even if you don't believe it right now, come talk to me because I promise you are deserving of love. And just to mention really quick, my first session, the breakthrough session, when you schedule a breakthrough session with me, that session is no charge whatsoever. So consultation, breakthrough session, no charge. I just really want to help.
See, now you guys don't have any excuse because I know they're all sitting there going, well, see, now I just come right full force at you. No,
there you go.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise with us. There's always something to learn. And like you heard, there's no cost. So what are you waiting for?
Thank you so much, Miss Tabitha. This has been absolutely wonderful. I appreciate the experience.
Thank you.
That's a wrap already on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for spending your time right here with me. And a very special thank you to today's sponsor. We are stronger together, louder as one, and truly a family connected. Be sure to leave a review to bring others along this journey with us. Tune in weekly on your favorite streaming platform. Or if you're interested in being a guest, send me a message today. Let's get to talking. Until next time, be good to others, be good to you. See you next week.